Hi and welcome to Bent TV. I'm your host for this evening, Malice, and tonight we're going to be bringing you a huge wide range of queer content, including some very sexy stuff coming up. Dean Beck is going to be presenting Hide and Seek, and he's going to be talking about your bits. So let's see where that takes us. Hope you enjoy.
Hide and seek.
For the ancient Greeks, the penis was the very symbol of life. As such, it featured heavily in decorative arts. Back then, Aristotle reckoned the perfect pecker was uncircumcised and pretty small. His theory was that a small penis meant less distance for the sperm to travel. Actually, Aristotle was wrong. Recent research has shown that better semen displacement is achieved with a longer penis. And that's apparently the way to go if fertilising an egg is your objective. These days, if you ask any man, does size matter? The response is hell yeah. Consciously or subconsciously, every man is transfixed by his cock. Almost from day one. Young boys just can't keep their hands off their dick. And I'm sure we all know a few men who aren't any different. So, who is it that's thinking about cock more? It's clearly not women. So is it gay men or is it straight men that are phallically focused? Well, our next guest has a PhD in penises. Almost. He's been a counsellor and a therapist for over 20 years, and he's the Victorian President of the Australian Society of Sex Educators, Researchers and Therapists. Dr. Christopher Fox, welcome.
Thank you.
Chris, explain for us what your PhD was in, if you would mind.
My PhD explored the relationship between penis size and body image in men. So, for many years I belonged to swim squads and going to the gym, and I used to notice that for some men they would change quite openly, shower quite openly. Other men would shower in their Speedos and their swimmers, change under towels, go into cubicles to change. I thought, hang on, this is more than about body, this is about their penis.
What's going on there?
What's happening? Why are they doing it?
Okay. Well, some guys can get really screwed up over the size of their cock. As a therapist, I guess it's your job to help them accept what it is that they've got. How do you go about doing that?
It's not a quick therapy. It's looking at their perception of their penis and what their penis means for them. So, I mean, for most men, you know, we're happy with our size. Our penis is something that is part of our life. But for some guys, they perceive their penis to be smaller. Some guys are smaller, some guys just perceive their penis to be smaller, and they're embarrassed by that in some way. And so it's pulling apart what that actually means for them.
I guess for some guys too, it's the difference between flaccid and erect. You know, some are quite happy with their erect penis, but their flaccid penis might be a shower. And therefore they get hung up about showing it in a public space like a gym.
For most guys, I think it can be a bit of both. Interestingly, in the research, you know, most men make comparisons on flaccid penises. You know, most straight men never get to see an erect penis. So their comparisons are always in change rooms at urinals, and they're only ever seeing the flaccid penis and comparing the flaccid. And what we do know is that the flaccid penis bears no relationship to the erect penis.
So who is more fascinated, gay guys or straight guys?
Interestingly, from my research, there's no difference.
Right.
Gay men and straight men are both fascinated. I thought gay men would have more hang-ups and more likely to be focused on the penis, but no, there's no difference. Both gay men and straight men experience the same sort of issues.
Well, apparently 79% of penises are growers and 21% are showers. Now, does that mean that only 21% of guys are happy being in a gym shower?
Couldn't really answer that. From the research we know from the survey research that somewhere around 85% of men are dissatisfied with the size of their flaccid penis.
I read somewhere that gay men on average have a larger penis than straight men too.
That research came from the Kinsey Research Institute in the US, and it's quite interesting. The argument was actually about why are gay men and straight men different, and they thought it was about exposure to testosterone in the uterus. Unfortunately, I don't know that there's much credence to the research itself.
Well, it's no wonder that men are mentally challenged with penis size. For years, medical books and press articles stated that the average length of a penis was about 16.5 centimetres. It's not true. It's more recent developments have actually said that the size is much smaller. 14.9 centimetres is supposed to be the actual average size now. Now, the original research had one major flaw in it, and that was that guys were asked to measure their own cock. Why is it that we like to add on a few centimetres?
I think it's not necessarily about adding on a few centimetres. I think it's about the way that they measured. One thing we do know, the 6.5 inches, the 17, 18 centimetre average came from the Kinsey data, which was all self-measurement. We also know that culturally, that there is a difference in size. So, for example, some Asian populations, condom manufacturers actually make smaller condoms. Australian data, we tend to say, in the review of the data I did, and it's actually international data around penis size, that the average penis is from 14 to 17.5 centimetres. Because, of course, our penis size differs on time of day, when was the last time we had an erection, how excited we are. All of these factors influence how erect or how hard or how long our penis is.
As anyone who has an email account will attest, there is a constant bombardment of online spam promising bigger, longer, wider, harder, quicker. These are so-called quick fixes to men's insecurities, and millions of dollars are being spent every week on basically what's snake oil remedies, really. These charlatans are clearly preying on men's masculinity insecurities.
Playing on men's masculinity, and for some men our penis size is tied to our sense of masculinity and how manly we are. And yeah, you know, they're preying on it. They, you know, every man desires a large penis. We have all of these messages that say the big penis is powerful, the big penis is good. When in actual fact, for heterosexual men, we also know that it's the width of the penis that's more important, not the length.
To their partner.
To their partner.
Yeah.
Their partner.
Do you think porn's played a big role in how we're screwed up about the size of our dicks?
No, because again, if you look at porn culturally, American porn is focused on large penises. European porn isn't focused on penis size, unless, of course, it's gay American porn now being produced in former Eastern Bloc countries. So what we see is that, or from the interviews I did, what we found was that men were saying, hey, porn actors are employed because they have large cocks. So, you know, it's not there. Dr.
Christopher Fox, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you're all now feeling a little bit more comfortable about your own self.
Oh, wasn't that interesting? Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back after this break. Welcome to Bent TV. I'm Malice, and we are looking at a whole load of different things tonight, including coming up now, Squeal, which is always controversial, so hope you enjoy.
Y'all need to wash under y'all damn nuts.
Good evening and welcome to Squeal on Melbourne's Bent TV. I'm Skye High. Tonight I'd like to talk about a subject, one that, as you will see, is particularly personal, that seems to divide us as a community, especially those amongst the drag and trans community. But first I'd like to introduce tonight's panel. They will share their own insights and opinions into what I'm sure will be an interesting debate. First up, we have Sammi, Malice and Greer. Hello, welcome to the special edition of Squeal on Bent TV.
Thanks for having us.
So, what trouble have I caused now? Recently, I appeared in a national advertisement for an American bourbon brand. There were 3 different advertisements that were shot under the slogan, Stay Strong. However, the shot that gained the most publicity and indeed went viral, both here in Australia and overseas, was a picture of me in drag, as I am now, standing at the urinal taking a piss. This is a copy of the photo that was used in the ad. This picture generated outrage across various communities, and I was accused of being both homophobic and transphobic. I thought I was neither, for reasons I'll explain. But let's get to the panel. Was the response to the ad reasonable or unreasonable?
So I thought it was fun, but I would really like to know what some of the specific outrage and controversy has been.
There was to my knowledge, a petition started, really? Absolutely, from a transgender community based in Brisbane.
Right.
I was seen as being particularly transphobic, even to the fact of being homophobic, which surprises me because I am a gay man, and above all, I'm a gay man in drag.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So I guess are we talking about the company, the advertising company? Are they the irresponsible ones?
I wouldn't have thought so. I'd be surprised with the people getting totally upset. The only time I think it's valid to get upset about an advertisement if it's really targeting the person as an individual, or specifically the group as an individual. But when it's clearly something that's fun and courageous in a sense to do, challenging, and it's not harmful to anyone, I don't see why people should get overly perturbed about it.
And I think that was it for me. It was a courageous move, because as a man standing at a urinal in drag, that bathroom could have been set anywhere in the world. It could have been in a straight environment. So if I'm standing there being who I am and doing what I do, is that a bad thing?
I think we do see it a little bit with the trans community has been given a hard time by the broader community because it's that lack of understanding of the trans community. So quite often the broader community maybe views you being in drag as their vision of the trans community. So I think maybe that's where some of the sensitivities from the trans community comes from, because they think that that's the way the broader community sees us, because they don't understand our rainbow community as a whole.
So does that mean that I would be targeted as being drag-phobic?
That's right, because see, we also saw that with there was a national ad, a tampon ad, and the drag performer that did that, they were actually accusing people of being drag phobic because of the reactions that they received was very similar to the reactions that you received.
Judging from what I look like at that picture though, do I look like a transgendered person, or would you say I'd be more of a drag queen?
Well, straight away I thought drag queen, I'd have to say.
It's the legs, isn't it?
It was the legs. I'm pretty sure it was the legs and the stance, because I think, trans take care about presentation, I think,
That's
more
true.
so. So that's what I thought. But to the straight community, they're a little bit in the dark still about, what the difference between, all of our community is, and drag, transgender, and there's still that tranny stuff out there still.
I'd have to agree with what Sammi was saying, is that for a long time the public view of a trans person was the drag queen because of lay girls and and as the drag shows developed and became the public image of a trans person, but as society is becoming more tolerant, there's still those pockets who think that that is the image of a trans person when we just want to be normal people.
Yeah, right.
But do you think I may have bridged the gap in any way from a straight person? Because this advertisement is in straight men's magazines.
That's what I wondered, yeah.
So do you think for a straight man to open up this magazine and say, okay, it's a drag tranny, do you find that may help them accept what I am in this picture a bit more?
I think if anything that we can actually say is the more visible we are to the straight community, regardless of how we sensitise and think that we should be viewed to the straight community, the more visible we are in any medium is a way of them realising that we're here, we're there, we're so many different personas. So,
and I think breaking down the stereotypes and the image of drag or trans is important within the greater straight community.
I think in any advertising too, and the female feminist movement has had the issue for a long time as portraying the housewife as chained to the kitchen sink for years after year after year, and I think if this line of advertising continued on and on and on, then it would become offensive. But when it's clearly designed to be making a point, having a bit of fun, who cares? People shouldn't be that precious about themselves, I think, and the more you react to the reaction, I think you lose it, and those people who create the turmoil, they'll just disappear into the background.
So the people that were targeting me and calling me very offensive names and suggesting that I was transphobic, are they any better than some of these straight people that would read the magazine and think, that's a tranny, that's a drag queen, that's disgusting?
I think it was a very valid point you brought up earlier, was about the advertising company. To me, I would look at it and think if they were being totally sensitive to the situations of our community, you could put a tagline at the end of the ad as a joke or something like that. No drag queens were harmed in the filming of this. So it really made them aware of, this is who you are, you're a gay man in drag. They can sort of take some responsibility of how they are portraying that ad as well.
Okay. Do you think that there was, I guess, any misintent with this advertisement?
Well, I wondered when I first saw it, I thought, men's magazines? That's an interesting target audience with this kind of picture.
Does that mean that I'm attractive to men, straight men?
Surely you are, Skye.
Surely I am.
Surely.
I tell them every day. But again, do we break down that stereotypical attitude of it's a drag queen, it's trans? You know, it's something that's very interesting.
I think it's something that's got a long way to go too.
I do too. Agree, sorry?
But I think too that sometimes when you do challenge people's perceptions, you get a bit of negative feedback, but ultimately it disappears very quickly.
That's all we've got time for Squeal this evening. I'd like to thank our panel, Sammi, Greer and Malice. Thank you at home for watching. Until we meet again, good night.
Well, did you find that controversial? We'd like to hear from you if you did, or even if you didn't. Try emailing us on feedback@benttv.org.au, or you can hit us up on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/BentTV. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Bent TV. We're about to talk about some emerging spoken word artists in the queer scene, and they're going to talk to us about their work during Midsummer. Hope you enjoy.
We're on Bent TV. I'm Sammi Whitehead. I'm joined by performer and writer Jess. Welcome to Bent.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your work, Dale.
So I'm doing a book called To the Exclusion of All Others. It's a book that's a queer critique of gay marriage, and I have people that have submitted from all around Australia.
Fantastic. Are we going to have a bit of a listen to some of that today?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do it.
As I sit here talking on stolen land, people in detention centres being processed offshore are on hunger strikes. A government that locks people away indefinitely for being refugees is not one I wish to be recognised by. With so much shit happening here and all over the world, I wonder, why gay marriage and why now? Could it be that it is a distraction from the real issues? Whilst resources and energy are poured into fighting for marriage, the Northern Territory intervention is being expanded. We continue to indulge in our mass consumption that is ruining the earth and killing billions of animals, and weapons are taking precedence over school books. Sure, we don't want to create a hierarchy of oppressions, but really, why give a fuck about marriage? We're told that the major fight right now in the GLBTQI community is gay marriage. Oh, sorry, marriage equality. We don't want the word gay in the title. That's too gay. It needs to be more homonormative, you know? When I came out, I was so happy and free. I also realised that I didn't have to do any of that heteronormative crap. No white picket fence, no flat screen, no marriage. Rather, I saw a queer future that I could shape for myself, not one that was dictated to me. When I came out, I was amped up on a mix of riot girl, hot lesbian and queer sex, and a lot of reading. Radical queer authors changed my life. I wanted to find that radical potential of the queer world. Marriage isn't that, and never will be. The marriage campaign has stepped in and created what is meant to be the ideal gay and lesbian life. It does so through pinning up white, able-bodied, cisgendered gays and lesbians. They are rich, respectable, and always so smiley. There is no discussion of major issues that occur in relationships. One of the biggest preventable threats to women's lives in Victoria is domestic violence. Where is the work marriage equality is doing to end this violence? How can you campaign for something without ever looking at the flaws in your arguments? For a movement that champions blissful relationships, it is obviously quiet about relationships that turn bad. Perhaps I would feel more comfortable if this campaign was holistic. If alongside weddings they had plans for refuges that housed queers amongst many other people in need. Where is the talk of how to have a healthy relationship? Where is the talk of consent and communication? Where are you, marriage equality, when you have a ring on your finger and a community still being beaten on your doorstep? Can you let us know? What about the issues that affect people who aren't just gay? What if you're poor, a person of colour, trans, have a disability, or a woman? After trolling the marriage equality website, I felt disconcerted about something. It took me a while to figure it out. They never mention anything past marriage. They don't even mention the honeymoon, let alone how to plan to end homophobia. Aside from its flaws in the actual campaign, it is a single-minded and single-issue fight. Where is their work on the future? If gay marriage was legalised tomorrow, what would be next? They are silent on this. Marriage equality, what will you do with all your money once you can get married? Will you reveal this to us? Have you even thought of that? No, because it's the only goal. It's the end game. After that, you can comfortably sit back and enjoy life. You've attained marriage. The name for this collection, to the exclusion of all others, came to me as I was standing outside of the Stonewall Inn. I was in New York for an animal activist conference, and I decided I just had to see this place, the icon of so much gay liberation. Standing and looking at that shabby old building, of course, made me think back to that infamous night of Sylvia Riviera throwing a bottle or a brick or whatever it was at the cops. It made me think of how this is hailed as the moment when so much resistance had actually gone before, that daily folks struggled, but that in our popular imagination we need to pinpoint a moment of greatness that's followed by the state realising the errors of its ways, which of course leads to the laws being changed and oppressed groups being liberated, and moments like this are then co-opted by mainstream groups as radical moments on the path to equality. Well, that's how the story often goes. But I can imagine that Sylvia Riviera threw bricks in so many ways, so many times before and after this riot. That change is a continual battle, and that relying on the state to give you rights is so often misguided. There's a bar on Oxford Street in Sydney called Stonewall. I wonder how many people dancing to badly mashed up pop music know who Sylvia Riviera is. Gay liberation has become enmeshed in white supremacy, cis-sexism and state-based liberation pleas. The gay rights movement in Australia is fabled to have happened on Oxford Street. It has a similar narrative to that of the Stonewall Inn, and the trajectory of the movement is parallel. That is, fighting against state oppression, the state changes laws, and then equality for all. Recently, the committee called the New Mardi Gras changed the name from the Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras to the Sydney Mardi Gras. This was to be more inclusive. They actually want us to believe that this was a step towards inclusivity. Just like the name marriage equality, that the gay and lesbian has been removed from the title in what is the most obvious example of mainstreaming the movement. Transgender, intersex, bisexuals, they don't even get a mention in the first place. This normalising erases any of the bad gays. We can't have the butchers and drag queens, the trans folks or perverts, the kinksters and sadists, the femmes or polyamorous families, just to name a few. They only detract from the end goal. As Fabian Romero says in their poem for the collection, assimilation is slow assassination. Gay marriage is the pinnacle of this. In putting this collection together, I've often been told that I'm too radical, that lots of gays and lesbians don't want to step outside the box, they just want to be normal. It's a sorry state when the people calling for the end of multiple oppressions are too out there. Much of the critique has been infantilising, misogynistic and lesbian phobic. I'm just a young, radical, angry lesbian, annoying feminist. The reality is that one day I'll just settle down, be lured by the easiness of middle-class capitalism, and just look back condescendingly on my radical 20s. Again, these narratives are trite. But the thing that is missing the most from equal marriage campaigns is queer fucking. Where is the anal in marriage equality? I ask this not only because it's slightly humorous, but because it's so clearly lacking in their campaigns. Australian marriage equality has many films advertising gay marriage, but never once mentions cunnilingus. It's like us queers are a bunch of asexual robots. Sure, some queers are most definitely asexual, but many of us love to fuck. Marriage equality is so busy making us like good heterosexuals that the rest of us are being left out on the doorstep. But to be honest, if the fight is to own flat-screen televisions and exclude anyone that doesn't fit the mould, I'll keep fighting outside.
Thank you for watching Bent TV. I've been Malice, and if you're interested in becoming part of the magic that is Bent TV, we would love to hear from you, as we are a volunteer organisation. Why not check out our website at benttv.org.au for further info, and also you can catch up on some old episodes with me in it. Great, see you next time.